Hello, my name is Craig. Welcome to the first podcast of the Binghamton Anime Club. I'm the vice president and one of the people in charge of this podcast.
Hi, I'm Jacob. I'm just a longtime member of the club, and it's honestly an honor to be here to, talk about something I really enjoy.
I'm Ben. I'm also one part of the e-board running this, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows it's pronounced anime, not anime.
Disgusting. Firstly. Secondly, hi, I'm Elias, a longtime member as well. Been here for all 4 years, and goddamn, I'm so happy that this is finally starting.
So, one of the things we're going to start off is just kind of talking about what we've been watching recently, just like recent simulcasts and just overall what we're watching. There's one big show that we've all been watching and all want to talk about. So whoever wants to start mentioning that one.
My Hero Academia.
And and for those that actually do care enough, Boku no Hero Academia, people, it's the same thing. Please.
I like saying My Hero, but I don't know.
Yeah, one's easier to
I
pronounce.
like
the other
saying
isn't.
Boku Hero because it has the word Boku in it, and that's got connotations.
To each their own, but I guess the reason we want to bring this up is kind of like explain why we enjoy it so much, and I'm sure a fair amount of you people, if you're listening to this podcast, have heard of the show or at least have seen pics, gifs, videos, something of the
Gifs.
like. Excuse me, gifs.
You're excused.
And I guess just maybe, hype it up enough for you guys to enjoy watching it. It is a few episodes in. It's already in its second season, but you can honestly binge it, and it's going to be very, very worth it.
I think binging it might be the way to go just because my biggest flaw with the series is that when I watch one episode weekly, it just doesn't feel like anything's happened. And I feel like I want more, but I'm caught up and it's infuriating. And even though I do also read the manga, I don't know, it's just a better experience to just watch it animated because I think it truly does look better animated. And I think the color scheme is really nice and Bones is doing an amazing job with it. So I don't know. That's my biggest gripe.
So one thing that you specifically, Jacob, and I know what you're gonna say to this question, but do you guys truly believe that My Hero Academia deserves the hype it's getting? Because there are quite a bit of people who have been out there saying that My Hero Academia might just be one of the best shonen anime, literally. Period. That this might be trumping a lot of the Naruto stuff, excluding like the tournament arc and the returning Sasuke arc. And so I would say a lot of people are extremely high on My Hero Academia. Would you go out as far as to say that is the best shonen that we've had so far?
I'm probably going to get a good amount of flack on any side for what we're about to say, but I personally do think it is deserving of that title. Because I admit, when I've seen it a long time ago before I even started reading anything. This was even way before an anime was ever in production. But I remember seeing it around, it was like 2 years worth of a publication by the time I actually started reading, and I binged the entire manga up to that point within the weekend. It was that good. And I think what makes it work is in any shonen anime or any shonen manga, you're going to have a lot of characters. Like even as you mentioned, Naruto, there's like a crap ton, a plethora of characters. But I think what makes My Hero Academia kind of special in that way is if you ask anybody like to name certain characters from Naruto, or if they show them a picture, it does start to get a little tough because there are so many. The thing with My Hero that works well is every character is different in, I guess, a way that's a little difficult for me to explain, but I'm going to try my hardest. The thing with My Hero Academia, for those that don't know, is in the current time, which is kind of like set also in present day, but in an alternate universe kind of. But what it is 80% of the world have developed superpowers, which in this manga is known as quirks. Now, everyone can use their quirks to different abilities. Some have the power to manipulate ice. Some have the ability to suck up water moisture and fire it out at people. Some have super strength. Some have like shock absorption. It's a long list of what you can have and how it affects everything around you. And the thing that's kind of interesting with this is every character again is different, not just because of their quirks, but even their quirks can sometimes make physical manifestations within the person. There's one character who literally has 6 arms because of his power. There's another one who has the powers of a frog, so she has like the anatomical kind of function of that. There's one that looks kind of like a rock mountain guy, but his power is the ability to talk to animals. But everyone is unique, that even at a very quick glance, you're able to tell who is who.
Can I just say, like, my problem with it's, I don't know, my problem with the characters is, again, there are so many, but I think what shows like Naruto and One Piece do better is that they flesh out all these background characters, whereas I can tell you the name of like every major character in Naruto pretty easily off the top of my head, but if you ask me to name all the characters in just Class A alone, 1A, which is the main 20 kids in the show, I can't tell you half of them just because they're so simplistically named, I think. Maybe that's part of it. But at the same time, I could tell you what they all look like and what they do, but like some of them, they're just so insignificant to the story and they're so little talked about that like I just can't think of them. Like the rock guy, I can't tell you his name because he literally doesn't do anything until chapter 60 of the manga or the most recent like 2 episodes of the anime. We didn't even know what his power was until then, and he's supposed to be a main character, and that's the problem with the show. It really only focuses on the story of maybe 4 or 5 kids in the class at most of the time, but the other, it's just these some of the characters are just defined by little personality, flashy design, or like one-off jokes. Like there's the one character with the laser belly button. You only know him because he's just like flashy and annoying on purpose, but that's like his only character feature, and I think it's hard to remember he exists. I don't know.
I do feel like that's also because like as a kid you grew up with Naruto and it was like the show that everyone watched, maybe Bleach as well, but Naruto was most definitely the show that everyone watched and would talk about in kindergarten. And just because it's like as a kid, I feel, or no, not kindergarten, geez, no, a little bit older than that, hopefully. But
We're all older here, if you could tell.
old,
I'm only 18. I think I'm the youngest.
I'm 20 and almost washed up. But yeah, it was also probably one of the first animes that you got introduced to, maybe one of the first animated shows in general. Hey,
Here I am raising my
Yeah,
hand.
yeah.
That was kind of my gateway anime.
Same. That and Yu-Gi-Oh.
So that so all the characters just mean that much more. Like obviously, like just like you said, I can say the name of almost all Naruto characters. Even Tenten, who has done nothing. She did nothing.
But see, like
at
my
all.
argument is though, like the Chunin exam arc, it gave every single character a meaningful fight in some way. Even if they weren't the biggest fight, we got to see Tenten fight Kin. No, it wasn't Kin. It was
Tamari.
Was it? Yeah, it was Tamari.
Yeah.
She got
Yeah.
blown away.
See, like, yeah, they at least they had a fight for her. And like the problem with My Hero is there are plenty of times where they should and could show full exposition of all these characters in fights, but they just don't. Like one of the first arcs was 2v2 fights. They only showed one group of students, and it was the main 4 characters. The tournament arc, the big one, the sports festival, again, they only really focus on a couple characters fighting. And even the most recent arc against the students and teachers, while some characters do get the chance to finally show off what they could do, there are still fights that are shown for 10 seconds. And I'm just infuriated by that because I want to like all the characters. But again, there are some characters I only know because their costume is just Luke Skywalker from Star Wars or because he looks like a rock mountain. Like, literally, that's how I remember them.
One thing I will say though, and I actually kind of agree with your point, is but I would disagree with you in the sense that I actually think that there's plenty of time allotted for each My Hero Academia character. But the one thing I would agree with you on is I feel like a lot of the times those, and granted this is a short show, so it's like this might be kind of empty criticism, is that it seems like a lot of the kind of minor characters like aren't a part of any of the big fights or big plot movements.
Yeah, that's my problem.
Because like I do feel like there's like, especially in the anime, there's just like random scenes where you're like, oh, that guy gets character development. Oh, hey, there's the laser guy being funny again.
Yeah, well, like,
but you like it's unmemorable. So like
Yeah.
I definitely I agree with you, but I feel like it's not a problem about screen time. It's much more about like, when will this laser belly bot dude actually do something?
like, that's the problem. Like, everyone in Naruto is at least important in some period of time, but like My Hero, there are characters that just do nothing.
Well, because the other thing is too, I don't want to say like you're comparing apples to oranges, but think about the two series we're comparing, Naruto and Boku no Hero. The thing is, Naruto has about 700 chapters to its name, and God knows how many episodes of anime, how many seasons. I don't even want to think about counting.
720
Yeah.
episodes,
Jesus.
and I'm not sure. I think there might be like 8 movies, maybe more, probably. But continue.
Yeah, but again, so 700 episodes plus versus My Hero, which is looking at maybe about 30? What?
40 right now. but
About 40.
37, I think.
So think
after
about the
season.
big difference between that. Like, there's going to be so much more development. Like, if you had the ability of stretching out character development over 700 chapters worth of information.
One Piece.
Yeah, but you'd be able to do that because of the sheer number and time you can allow for characters to have that development. Whereas Boku no Hero, it doesn't have that time yet.
But like, I just looked it up. Episode 37 of Naruto is the beginning of the tournament arc in the Chunin exams, which is, yes, a major arc, but a lot has happened in the show at that point. But at the point we are now in My Hero, it feels like nothing's happened. There's maybe been one big arc, maybe two, and like it feels like nothing significant has truly happened. Really, just the introduction, the assault on the USJ where the villains are introduced, and then the tournament arc, the sports arc. But again, it feels like no major plot has happened because there's really no threat that's been established. In Naruto at this time, they already went on their first big mission, which was life or death. Then they survived the Forest of Death, and now they're about to take on a giant fucking tournament a giant tournament arc where they're all gonna have to fight each other. So this is right where the meat of Naruto starts to pick up and the character development starts. But we're kind of still in the early stages of My Hero, which I feel like is a problem. Granted, Naruto, it felt like it was gonna have more time to run. But at the same time, we don't know My Hero Academia isn't going to have 600-700 chapters. And I think it's kind of the way that Bones is handling it and the new style of shonen anime where it's more, let's do either 1 or 2 seasons, like 12 to 25 episodes, and then call it a break for a year. I think the Magi did that, Noragami did that, and now My Hero is doing that. And I think it detracts because it makes the studios feel like they need to make tighter narratives that fit in these episodes, whereas with Naruto, it was just constant progression because they knew they could just do whatever they wanted.
I mean, I guess. I don't know. I personally do like the slowness of it. It kind of gives that momentum building throughout the entire thing. And even with stuff you were mentioning, like Magi or Naruto, just the sheer level of like having to up the ante with every arc passing through. It just got to a point, at least personally for me, where it just became, I don't want to say silly, but it just seemed to be a little too much. Like if I can go back to Magi I was talking about, those that read the manga kind of know that like what's going on with it. I ain't gonna spoil it. If you do, 366 chapters, get read them. But what happens after a while is things just seem to get so overpowered and so crazy. It just gets hard for me to be really invested in it anymore. Like I'll read it to finish it out, but I'm not enjoying it like I used to. It's just gotten so over the top.
Yeah.
It's just hard to read, which is why like My Hero, it seems more grounded. At least that's a personal thing for me. I'm not trying to say like your opinion's wrong, my opinion's right. This is just my feeling. I personally like the slow, like methodical build up. It kind of like brings everything. You see each step along the way, but it doesn't get too far from itself because then it's hard to reel back in.
Yeah, I guess to the first point, by the time the tournament arc happens, yeah, a lot of people did have development, but who did? It was, I mean, in the Zab's arc, it was Naruto and Sasuke. Sasuke didn't get any development. Zabuza got development, but then he died. Kakashi got.
He had a full story arc though.
Yeah, and then
like
and then
it was a
died.
short but full.
And then he
Right
died,
when
so he's
he
not
died.
Well,
around.
like, no, like his story started and ended. It was that's
and
kind of what it was
it-
meant to
and
be.
It was good that I mean, it was really good, but at time could have gone a little bit towards another character who's going to be alive for a lot longer. Like I don't know, maybe make Sakura like feel like a human being.
What, they can't do that?
Yeah.
That ruins the
No,
entire
but
plot.
Sakura got wait. But Sakura did get her little part of development during the Forest of Death when she cut her hair off. Like that was kind of important.
yeah.
That was her only development ever.
I feel like her
And then
act-
she
I
fought
feel like her
Ino
actual
in the
development-
Chunin exam arc.
I feel like
Which
the actual
still needed
development-
Naruto's help to actually win.
Yeah, was that the actual fight was Ino because it was also just like fighting the I don't know, friend that you've been rivals with, trying to win over Sasuke's attention. But the second point of what did you say? What did you say earlier about like how Boku Hero feels? Yeah, it doesn't feel like a draw. Like
It's like a slow, methodical burn. It
And
gives
it-
you enough to want more, but not so much where it like pelts you with information.
But
Yeah.
that being said, like I would like to say, like I kind of do agree with Craig that like I kind of hate the structure of how we only get 25 episodes because I'm pretty sure we've all read the manga, right?
oh yeah,
And it's one of those things where it's like, man, oh man, dude, I wish it was at least like 50 episodes or another 25 because like that's when things like actually start like big plot points start getting progressed and things like that. So that is like one thing I will say is like I feel like it is kind of it's a shame that like we only get 25 episodes because like part of the reasons why I kind of hate the anime right now is it's like you could go so much further. You have so
Yeah.
much cooler, better things to do, but like
there's
no.
just not been any stakes yet aside from the first arc. But like All Might was there and saved the day, and like I will say what you were saying with Magi, how like everyone got really overpowered. I think the cool thing about Hiroaka is that we know All Might is like this one of, if not the strongest character in this world. So that's where like we have a set scale of what to expect, which is really cool, which is kind of Naruto's problem. Like at the beginning, it was like this was what we thought was powerful, and then literally fucking
Oh my god,
gods.
guys, Kaguya,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's why I do like Hero Academia because it's gotten to a point like there was the Bleach, there was the Naruto, there was the
gross.
Magi. We're not going to open up that can of worms, but just it got to a point where it just felt too much, and I personally couldn't feel invested in the story. And I loved Naruto, Magi, Bleach when I started reading it. I really, really did. But then it just almost hurt to continue because it was just so overblown. Like you see the progression. Like for those of you that probably know College Humor, who they are, they do drawings, they do skits and everything. One of their articles that I always keep in the back of my mind is like anime when they start and when they end. And it's the joke of like DBZ, like, oh, we're gonna go out and find the Dragon Balls, and then when it's ending, it's like, wait, I got another Super Saiyan power up? Well, alright, who are we fighting now? Oh, a god? Cool. Like that's just the problem. It continues on so much. But what Hero Academia does is, as Craig was saying, All Might is the strongest hero. That has been completely established within the story. He's the number one hero. He's like the strongest in history.
Yeah.
He's the symbol of peace for that reason.
And his peak also happened like before the first fight with a certain villain.
We're trying not to give
Yeah.
spoils. Believe
Yeah.
me, you're gonna want to read it.
And then I guess as a fight with Nomu, I feel like that shouldn't that just saying that is a fight is not a spoiler. When he says that 300 punches during that fight was the equivalent of 5 of his punches back at his peak. Yeah, like it just establishes like there was, or at the very least recently, like a peak. Yeah, essentially.
the thing that works is a bar is set, and it's set early.
Yeah.
Because this is back, like, during that fight, again, as he was saying with Nomu, this happens at the USJ, which is, like, the earliest, if not, like, second earliest arc. It's, like, very, very soon in the story. So it's very quickly established the bar every character, main to side, has to try to reach. This is where you need to get to. This is the power you have to have. Even if your power is different, this is to the level you need it as. So people may, of course, go a little past it, but we still have a bar to know where it's at. And it's, again, established so early that we know to a point like, oh, they're going to reach heights, like extremely high heights, but it's not going to be so overblown because we know there is somebody that can do this, and that's what they're aiming for.
I feel like, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, in One Piece kind of did that pretty well with the fight with Zoro and Mihawk, where Zoro fights Mihawk and he just gets like slapped in not even half a second, and then he swears that he will train to the point where he could like last several seconds against Mihawk, and then up until the time skip arc is where he doesn't even fight Mihawk, he just gets to train under Mihawk, and then after the time skip is of course after his training with said Mihawk, who was so strong that like he essentially had the equivalent of power that Shanks did, where Shanks showed up to the Battle of Marineford and just stopped it right there.
Exactly. That's the thing that works and why One Piece is, again, still going on. Because we constantly get such high bars set so early, we know, hey, this is where they're going to get to that general level. So we know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I would say one counterpoint against, like, I definitely agree that having the bar is definitely good, but something that kind of worries me about My Hero Academia is, will they ever, like, and this is like kind of a shonen thing in general, like, when do they reach the bar? Because I could definitely see a world where either My Hero Academia just kind of drags, or something that I'm personally really worried about is that it seems like a few characters are going to like potentially get pretty close to that bar, and then they're just like, kind of to Craig's point, there's just those few kind of comic relief characters, but also like some are like they're like some like Uriko-chan, or is that her name?
Araka.
Uraraka.
Yeah.
Pardon us for our terrible pronunciation. We try. Believe me, we're trying.
I'm the worst, so I'll just say that right out there. But regardless, like, it definitely kind of makes me wonder, like, where are they going to go with that? Because, like, one thing that I hated about Naruto towards the end is, like, Naruto and Sasuke, like, Sasuke basically made it 8 moves in, like, 30 seconds, while Sakura's like, man, I have a good punch, I guess. So, like, so I feel like, obviously, like, looking forward, like My Hero Academia has a lot that can either get better at or go down. Like probably can't get much better, but like it can at least has a lot of room to go down. So I feel like it'll be interesting looking at My Hero across future years.
Yeah, I think I'm more hopeful though, because there has been a display of like I guess kind of a JoJo effect of being able to essentially overcome like a really strong power. Like in JoJo, a rat almost killed Jotaro. The only reason that I feel like the only reason why Bakugo was able to beat Uraraka in a tournament fight was because he took her seriously. She had a really good plan, and he only won because he, despite having done everything wrong as a character, he was not arrogant. He took her seriously, and he was able to essentially trump her trump card. As opposed to how in Bleach and Naruto, it just became like in Bleach especially, what I really get mad about is how Chad gets to the point of, I have a really good strong punch, and Ichigo says, okay, but I can literally slice a planet. But that's good too. That's pretty good too. Not bad, not bad.
I think you made a cool point with JoJo, because I think what JoJo does best is that it's very hard to compare power levels between characters, because no one is necessarily stronger than the other.
Yeah.
All of the fights are about intelligence and how to use your powers. And I think that was kind of similar to early Naruto. And I think Hiroaka is trying to do that. And there are times where it's very close. Like I think Bakugo versus Uraraka was a good example of that. But like Deku versus Todoroki was again just kind of like who can punch harder, whereas it's just not doing that the JoJo style fight, which I think is good.
One thing that I would like to add though is I forgot what the purple guy's hair name is who can
Oh,
mind
great,
control.
great.
Oh,
Oh,
I want to
yeah.
know Shinzo. Yeah.
So like one thing that like kind of like that like makes me kind of worried is like he literally just got wrecked by Deku just because Deku was like, I have secret powers with my quirk for some reason that lets me negate this, and then
that
I
was
can
bull.
do that. So like that was something that like was so that is something that like is this going to become a common thread? So far, not, but it definitely it happened once, and like you don't want to happen again.
I mean, the thing is with that, at least the way I understand what you're saying, and I do admit it kind of is, but at the same time, it's not like, oh, it just magically happens. Like after the fight, admittedly, we're giving a little bit of spoiler here, so sorry for anybody trying to, but again, please read, watch, it's worth your time. But like Deku, or the character's name, Izuku, he goes by either or, that's a longer story. But he talks with All Might and it's like, hey, this is kind of what happened. I'm not so sure if it was because I was under mind control or something else. And All Might tells him, like, no worries, you're probably fine. Go rest up, get ready for your next match. And I can't remember exactly who he talks to, but he kind of like talks both to himself and the other person. And it's okay, he's seeing it too. Things are happening now.
Was it
So
the cop?
I think so.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name. I know.
Because Izuku saw he saw All Might in Deus Ex.
Yeah.
So it is, but at the same time, it was something that would happen. Sure, it's convenient timing, but it's not a Deus Ex Machina in that sense. It's kind of like it just happened to happen at that time, but it had a reason for why it happened.
It makes sense, but it's just annoying because it was just like, hey, this is a new power, and it's like, hey, it's the Dragon Ball problem.
Yeah,
New
I feel like
power-up.
One Piece also did that kind of decently, like when Luffy was fighting Crocodile, and eventually, and Crocodile says that my type ability means that I can literally turn into Stan. You can't punch me because I'll become Stan. And Luffy just goes, all right, well, I'll just punch you a lot anyways. And it works, which is really confusing at that point. And way later, perhaps a bit too much in the future, but it's explained, oh, yeah, you have a latent ability called Haki, which allows you to ignore that. So everyone's like, oh, that's why that happened. It was a reason. But in that case, I feel like it took too long to elaborate. Similarly with that.
There was a lot of hinting of Haki, though.
Yeah, I mean, like, it took a while to be confirmed. Like, this is a thing, and this is what you're going to work on, though. Us going back to the fights being a little bit like rock, paper, scissors, Yaoyorozu fighting Bird Boy, best boy, second best boy next to Shinzo. What's the bird's name?
Tokoyami.
Yeah.
All the characters are best boys and best girls,
Yes.
FYI.
It is true, except the invisible girl, because
Don't you dare.
you can't see what she looks like.
She is best girl.
Don't you, every girl is best
Wait,
girl.
I just want to say.
All women are queens.
Wait, this isn't about
Yes,
her.
queen.
This isn't her in specific, but this is also my problem with the show. I feel like no, this is
How
weird.
dare you?
This is a small problem. It doesn't have to do with her or any of the girls, but it kind of screwed up its own logic in the beginning because the way to get into the school was to destroy enough of these giant robots, and then it has characters whose abilities like just could not help them. Like this girl's only power is to be invisible. She's probably not strong enough to just take apart robots with her hands. And then there's the guy that talks to animals. There were no animals nearby. How did he beat these robots?
So they addressed that, but yeah, you want to go hard.
You want to go hard.
If I may, yes, destroying the robots was a way to do that. But the point of the test was not to destroy them. It was to stop them.
Disable them.
It doesn't mean you have to destroy. Take Invisible Girl for that instance. She could have gotten close. The robots wouldn't be able to detect her. Rip out the wires. They stop working.
Right,
There's another
fair.
character with the ability that he can pluck
Great
stuff off
Boy.
his... Yeah. Mineta.
No, I could see how he got it.
But exactly, but that's the point. He didn't have to destroy things. He was able to stop them, which allowed him to win. Destroying was not the only way. It's the easiest, but it's not the only.
And something that I want to add is that there's actually the purple-haired mind-controlled guy that I talked about earlier actually had that problem where he
Yeah.
went through the test
Well, yeah.
and just failed because he didn't have the good work.
Aizawa addresses that also. So
Yeah,
it's in
so-
universe, like, this is a problem. So it's not even just the readers thinking, guys, this doesn't sound like a logical thing in universe, because the people in the universe think, I don't think this is the right thing. So it's like, the universe agrees with me.
Yeah, so I feel like in that sense, like I kind of know your point where like, but why do they have the test in the first place? But I feel like
No, I think
it makes it more realistic because of whatever because it makes it more realistic because you do get to see some of like I guess the political flaws of the
No,
society.
I think that's right, and I have no problem with that. I just think that he wrote in characters that I can't see in any perceivable way passing the test. That's my problem.
Well, Shinzo
but, like,
also got into the B class thing, which
No,
means
he got into like the support.
support
Yeah.
thing,
He
got
which
into
was
the
like
support.
he
He got-
didn't need to pass.
No, he
the,
got into the general class. It wasn't
Yeah,
even the
whatever,
support
yeah,
class.
yeah.
It was literally like
hey,
have
go to
fun
school here.
learning.
So like
yeah,
he probably
ABCs.
did he probably did really good in the written exam and was able to get in, at least by that measure alone. But just because he can't stop robots, he wasn't able to get into heroes class. I think other people who would have a harder time in the robot section, it's also explained that they did pretty good on the written exam, where even though they didn't do great in the punch robots or stop robots part of the exam, it wasn't 100%. It was, I think, 50-50. So
So before, so I feel like to wrap it up, is there like, and besides My Hero Academia, which we went pretty hard on right now,
we can go even more hard.
yeah,
Sorry, I'm just
we
willing
could
to sell my
probably
soul
make
for this.
the whole podcast about this. But is there
We should.
anything you are interested in, or have been watching recently that's been interested you besides My Hero Academia?
Well, me and Ben, I think, have both watched the first season of Kaiji recently, and that was a cool show. So, like, for those that don't know, because you probably don't, Kaiji is a gambling anime, and it's much better than Kakegurui because there's actual stakes. Like, people die in the show because of gambling, and it gets wild.
One thing I will say is this. I think I got this from the comment section of Crunchyroll, but this anime is essentially like Panic Attack, the anime, and I think the one thing I will say that detracts from it is that the animation style, like everyone's nose is straight up a right triangle.
Nah, I love it. It's
and
so funny.
I have no beef against right triangles, but it's a little strange.
It's a look. You know what I mean? Like it defines itself.
Imagine
It's
if
kind
this
of
was-
like what it's like what Kakegurui does in that everyone's facial expressions are so wild. It needs a standout art style so that when it's like if the show is just normal people gambling, it wouldn't look and appeal as much. But like when you have characters that look the way Kaiji does, it's interesting to look at and adds another layer of attractiveness so that it appeals to people. It's like, why is this weird looking man playing cards? I gotta watch the show.
I gotta say though, imagine a physiology class in that universe. So yeah, there's the brain, the hands, and also notice the fact that all of our noses are red. This is because evolutionarily, I don't know how.
Yeah, things happen anime.
Something happened.
I mean, I personally, at least, am looking forward to Black Clover getting an anime because I remember, like, really early on in the manga, I was hoping this thing would get popular enough to get an anime. For those that don't know, it is kind of like a fantasy magical show in which, like, everything is, of course, dictated by magic. And, of course, we have the plucky underdog who was born with absolutely no magic at all. He wants to be, like, the Magic Emperor, which is like the highest in the class. Cue, Naruto wanting to be Hokage.
Yeah, very Naruto.
So it is that. But the thing is, it's just a fun ride to see him, like, in this world where literally magic dictates everything. He has built his body up through crazy training to do what he does.
So it's My Hero meets Naruto,
In a way,
which
yes.
is cool.
So yeah, I mean, considering a gateway. So gateway anime plus the thing I'm willing to sell my soul for. Huh. I wonder why I like it.
I think what I'm most excited for when it comes
Yeah,
to
Black Clover's coming out in the fall.
Yeah,
And that's
it's a
kind of what
fall
we're going to talk
season
about.
anime.
Yeah.
I think the thing I'm looking forward to most It's probably either Kino's Journey, although I haven't seen the first season of that, but I've seen a couple episodes, so I know it's good.
I'm getting
but
the DVD
one,
this week. I'm
yeah, actually, I saw
You
a
bought it
snap
too?
from my
Or-
friend who, like, it's the DVD is on my doorstep, so after the podcast, people
Literally,
know
it
what
was.
I'm going to do.
It's still on sale. $9 on Sentai Filmworks' website. How could you not buy it for $9?
This is not an advertisement, but
But like, Sentai Filmworks, sponsor us.
But that being said, I think what I am the most excited for during the fall season is the second season of March Comes In Like a Lion, and he laughs,
I
but
haven't seen it,
but
but like,
what
it's
I
a
will
hype
say
season coming up.
is that like for those of you who likes Your Lie in April, Your Lie in April is almost garbage compared to
No,
March
I feel
Comes Into
ya.
Like a Lion because it's done by I think the
Shaft.
same writer, right? Or same was
What?
it by the same writer or just by the
Of
same?
what? Your Lie in April?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I have not.
Anyways, they're
seen
the
it.
same anime studio, and it
No,
has
it's
the
different.
same. It is.
Yeah, Shaft did Your Lie. No, A1
No.
did Your Lie, and Shaft is doing March.
All right. Regardless, it's a nice, depressing anime that like actually does I feel like the depression right. And although that it sounds pretty terrible,
It's interesting.
it's pretty interesting. And I also like chess, and shogi's basically chess. But
There will be ninja cutting onions every time you watch the show.
I guess I'm kind of looking forward to the what was that one? The
Blood Blockade Battlefront
Blockade
season
Battlefront.
2.
Honestly,
Kakai
just
Sensen season
because
2.
of the
Boy.
name like Blood Blockade. Like, good God, how can you go wrong with blood and blockades?
and the season 2.
Season 2.
Or the hype train.
Season 1 was alright. It was very Bones being Bones and very like Bones clickbaity. Like it was stereotypical shonen character, beautiful Bones animation, weird story, weird pacing. It was just Bones being Bones.
I counted that was 6 times he said bones.
I
But
know.
what
I
is-
love Bones.
Bonezo.
Like I love the studio, but they are so stereotypical of themselves. Like it's you
Well,
know
what
a
are you
Bone
most
show.
excited about?
What am I?
for-
I am excited for a lot that's coming out. So like Black Clover is hype. I'm excited for Kino's Journey because I'm going to watch that also. But like I'm excited because there's a lot of stuff I maybe would not have seen. But Funimation's dub season this season is wild. They got Black Clover. They have Kino's Journey. They also have, which we have not talked about yet, the Ancient Magus Bride, which is apparently the greatest thing ever. I don't know. I really don't know what it's about, but it's about magic, and it's oddly by Wit Studio, who does Attack on Titan and shows that are just Attack on Titan. So I'm excited for something that isn't Attack on Titan.
Didn't Wit do
Until it
Attack
looked-
on Zombie also? known
Yeah, they did
as the-
Cabaneri,
Yeah, Cabaneri.
And they did
yeah.
Vampires, Seraph of the End, which was awful.
Attack
So
on
I'm
Vampires.
excited for something that looks pretty that maybe isn't shit.
Well, one thing is that I will guys temper expectations about that is that the one thing about the Magus Bride is there's only a couple of OVAs, so
Yeah,
Like-
but like they're just redoing the whole series. Like, like it's just like the whole show.
I know, but it's one of those things. Like I feel like when things are just like that random obscure OVA, they get rated ridiculously highly.
Well, no. The first
but-
3 episodes were aired at Anime Expo, and people have found
Oh,
them,
that's it.
and those are also getting really highly rated. So
That's what I'm saying. Like
yeah.
that's like how I know of it is because of those.
Well, there's
OVAs.
also the OVAs.
Yeah.
Like there's both. So
Oh,
like
okay.
that's why there's so much hype because people know it's legitimately good.
All right, so now after our very long, I guess you could say, excursion or jaunt through the current shows we've been watching and those that we're excited for, I guess it's about time that we got to our now our main topic of the show, which is
God.
why are anime or live action adaptations of anime/manga so bad?
In
Like,
one case.
so bad.
And for this specific case, we will be talking about the newly released Death Note movie on Netflix and how it compares to the anime.
Well-
spoiler alert, it does not compare well.
No one saw
Hey,
Ghost in the
boys.
Shell, right? Did anyone?
I don't think I didn't see Ghost
I
in the
didn't.
Shell.
I did
Because I
not.
heard it was bad. And like I'd say let's talk about that, but none of us saw it.
I heard
Well,
it
the
was
one-
disappointing, but it could have been so much
The
worse.
one thing
Well, that was like Death Note kind of.
Oh, Death Note,
Whatever.
It could, man, it was pretty bad.
So I heard what the main difference, and granted this is from secondhand sources, not from like me watching it and like interpreting it, but the main difference that I've heard about the two, and I'm gonna get really into how Death Note doesn't really follow the anime, but the one thing about Ghost in the Shell is I heard it does actually follow the original Ghost in the Shell
Yeah.
movie surprisingly well, but then like on the main parts just kind of go a little wacky.
You mean
Like,
the original anime, right?
no, I'm talking about the movie.
Oh,
like the
oh,
movie
okay,
actually
okay,
gets
yeah,
some
yeah.
parts
Yeah.
right and a surprising amount of parts right for a live action adaptation.
Right.
But overall, it just, what I've heard at least, just kind of flubs it a little bit, especially towards the end.
Well, I heard the biggest problem with it was it did like the plot all right, but it just didn't capture the deep themes
Yeah.
of Ghost in the Shell, which
Exactly.
It felt like-
the
it felt like a side
original
quest.
the original Ghost in the Shell anime movie is an action movie, but it's also very slow at times, but the slow parts are very interesting. Whereas I think the problem with the live action movie, what I've heard, is that there was too much slow and boring parts that were not deep, so it was just boring.
Also, if you haven't watched the original Ghost in the Shell, I'd highly suggest it just because for the main reason that like Ghost in the Shell was like in some ways the anime that got anime into America. In a lot of
that
ways.
and Akira.
Like I know like my brother specifically, like he's much older than me. He's 36 years old, but like that was the first anime that he saw because like that it was so popular in its day. So very good, highly recommended.
Yeah. I feel like what happened with the Death Note movie was that, and to make a parallel with, I guess, like, especially like slasher films today, is that it felt very checklisty. Like, here's the artifact, here's the thing that is supposed to be scary. Here's a pop-up scare every 2 seconds, of which will not stick with you afterwards. And here are the characters that you don't really care for and are not fun to follow. And that's what happened, it seems, in the movie. You didn't care to follow L2.
Well, the whole thing with that is, as like me and my friends who watched it, and we all really enjoyed the Death Note anime and manga. What we basically could compare it to is if they took all the information, threw it into a blender, mixed it up into fine little bits and pieces, and like just scooped out a section, slapped it on a table, and tried to work it from there. Because everything was thrown around into ways it should not have been. Like if we take the main characters, Light Turner, and Mia. Oh god, this is already going to be difficult. The problem was Light was made into the stereotypical American high school, as you would in like an ABC show or whatever.
The DBZ effect.
As much as I hate to really say that, it is. He was just a whiny little protagonist that really couldn't do anything by himself. Whereas then Mia was basically given Anime Light's personality and way of thinking.
Yeah, Light is all about, like, the original character is supposed to be a genius, and he's supposed to be exceptional and extraordinary and just perfect. Whereas Light in the movie is an idiot and annoying, and, like, he's supposed to be, like, the underdog story, whereas you're supposed to be like, nah, Light's crazy. What is he up to?
So, I want to just build on Craig's point with a one specific example where I actually, and like for those of you who don't know, this is like, we're going to be going really in depth in like probably particular scenes potentially, so spoiler, but saying that, one thing to add to Craig's point is the fact that this is supposedly, at least in the anime, some genius. In the movie, it's made pretty quickly that he's no genius. But the thing is, the thing that really got me was the fact that, like, in gym class, he's literally sitting on a bench reading the Death Note. And like, he's just reading it in public. Like, this man is just...
He's stupid.
And then once like once what's her name?
Mia.
Mia. Once Mia goes up to him and asks him, "Oh, what are you reading over there?" He's like, he literally just says like, "I have a notebook that kills people. I am an edgelord." And or you want to go ahead? You want to take that?
If I may.
Yeah.
Sorry to interject. I know Ben was having great points, but the thing is, at this point, instead of running away or telling a frickin' teacher, Mia's kind of just like, yeah, right. So of course, Light, in his infinite wisdom, decides to prove it. I'm not going to explain exactly how. It really does not matter. Let's just say Final Destination death scene.
Which was also weird. Like the death scenes were like much more violent than they ever were in the show.
Yeah, like
which was like strange.
Yeah. For those that don't know, I don't know how you don't know, but the rule of the Death Note is like if you write a person's name, they will have a heart attack in 40 seconds. You can prolong the time of death until about 28 days from after you write the note in. You can also dictate how they will die. And there's a point like you can kind of control them up into their point of death. I can't remember the exact specific. The movie had about 2 days worth, and then you could control them. That might have been in the manga. I don't know, so I do apologize for that.
It was.
It was.
So 2 days up until
like that. That's how he did the thing with the guy on the bus in like the 3rd episode.
Okay, so again, at least we've established that. So the movie got at least that right. But honestly, the movie just had so many other things that just didn't work. Like L basically came out and said like, "Hey, yeah, Kira, I'm coming after you."
He's like, "Hey, babe, I'm here. What's up?"
I'm gonna get you. It's Chucky.
L also just wasn't as smart, and he was too emotional. Whereas original L is like emotional, but like he's like a child.
And the thing that also at least angers me is the whole point of Death Note. Again, a little bit going into spoiler. Is that, of course, Light, a.k.a. Kira, is going on his mega killing spree.
Kira!
L, which, again, that's another point in the movie I'd like to get to later. And then L is hired as, the investigator to try to take him down because the police can't do anything about it. Light, wanting to help, if there's the air quotes for those, that can't see.
For everyone that isn't the 3 people in this room.
Point taken. Is helping L and the police force try to catch Kira. So it's that whole game of cat and mouse where L is trying to prove that Light is Kira, while Light is trying to keep L off his trail while simultaneously still acting as Kira and trying to kill L. So it's that whole game of cat and mouse that makes the series what it is. Where it's to a point where something happens. Again, trying not to spoil too much. It's really not.
Don't worry about it. We already gave a spoiler alert, so just we're gonna go in depth. I'm gonna spoil more, so go.
All right. So basically, what happens is the rules of the Death Note are: when you write someone's name, you must write their true name and have the face of that person in your mind as you write it.
Yeah.
So what happens is we don't know L's name or anything, and we barely even know his face.
We still don't know L's name. From the original anime, we don't know his name, which is really funny.
But the thing is, Light controls L's helper, Watery, through the Death Note and everything, and makes him go try to find L's name. And it says, he will die at 7 p.m. from whatever. And of course, nothing is specified, and he goes dealer's choice, which, Light would never do because he plans everything to a T, but that's just another problem of this movie. But after, Watery disappears and L doesn't know how to handle that, he confronts Light in a childlike fashion. He confronts him face to face, throws things on the floor, tries to create a scene, tries to intimidate.
As if he was Pennywise.
Yes, to really point it out to that. But yes, for L to act like a child. And then Light even later admits that, he was doing something, which would not happen at all. L is calm and collected. He doesn't act out of malice or anger. And Light would never, to L's face, say that, I'm Kira. Have fun with that bitch. Try proving it. That would never happen.
Is that a JoJo reference?
No, I didn't mean to make a JoJo reference if it is.
2 things I want to point out is one's just like adding another character is Ryuk. Ryuk,
Ryuk
they
is
don't
cool.
even. No, one thing I would say is like he's pretty cool, but they also just get him totally wrong.
Yeah.
When basically Ryuk, literally because Light is that dumb, he's just like, all right, 4-year-old, this is how we're gonna do this. I'm just gonna tell you every single rule in the freaking book, and there you got it. And where originally in the anime / manga there were rules in the book, but Light read them himself because in the anime he was capable of reading, and
What a skill.
but also because he actually like experimented on people and killed hundreds of people trying to figure out the rules of the notebook, which was something that was completely out of the that was not in the movie. But the one point I wanted to ask you guys is something that I personally asked myself when watching was, would it have been better, or would the movie have been better if literally they just destroyed every resemblance to Death Note? Because honestly, I was
I agree.
thinking throughout the entire movie that I was like, he should honestly just be named Timmy Turner, and this movie would be exceptionally better.
Yeah.
So I just want to guys go around the table and get what you guys think. I have some ideas, but
This is not to say also. Well, you're making the point that like, not this movie didn't suck because the main character was dumb. It's bad because the character in the manga and anime was smart, and suddenly in the world where trying to recreate the events more or less with a person that was not smart in a movie, like an anime or any piece of fiction won't be bad just because the character is dumb. In fact, you can go a lot of ways with that than having like say a lot of events occurring in the anime, manga, again, whatever piece of fiction occur due to the person's less smart choices, like what happens to a lot in Naruto, because Naruto is not the smartest person ever. But the movie should have would have been rewritten with the main character being dumber. So, but that would entail so much change that would have really be Death Note at that point. Like,
I mean, the thing I feel, and like a personal opinion, if it wasn't referencing Death Note, it would have been tolerable. It wouldn't have been good, but it probably would have been like a cult classic, like Sharknado, in that kind of realm. You know, like some people would eat that up like crazy. But because it was referencing something, and it gave enough subtle nods, like, hey, yeah, we know what we're doing, but at the same time, just completely wrecked it. Like, that's just what hurts for me. At least personally, because it's like, this is probably a show or something that like people really, really enjoy. And to see it like mixed up and just made like this, it was painful watching.
Essentially a different product with the sign Death Note just like taped in front of its head. It's like, that's not it.
I mean, one thing that I just want to point out is I'm pretty positive, I checked this like the other day, that Death Note was like rated the #1 most popular anime on my anime list by
the most people have seen it.
Yeah, most people
it's
have
one of
seen
the
it,
two or three shows with over 1 million people.
I actually have never seen it. I just know enough about it because everyone has talked about it so much at this point. To this day, I still don't know what happens at the end. I just have never had a spoiler for some reason.
Honestly, the end of the anime isn't that good, but
read the manga.
Really? Alright.
I just bought the giant 2,400 page volume of the manga because it was pretty cheap, and I'm very excited.
Well, here's the thing: episodes like 1 through 25 are good. Everything else go for manga. Sorry for a tangent, but continue.
Would you like to add to that point?
No.
All right. The one thing that I will add is like you said tolerable, but I feel like in some ways it would actually be worse. Like I feel like the movie, if they got rid of all the references, would be worse. But that being, or maybe not worse, but equally as bad. But the one thing I will say to it is I feel like it would have been highly more entertaining if they were just given random names and basically just did it like your standard horror film. Because I forgot which one of you said this, but I think it was very accurate that the Death Note movie in a lot of ways is trying to put a Death Note shaped like triangle into like a circular horror movie like circle, and that just doesn't work, and that and that they're just trying to jam something in there.
It thought it was a horror story, and it's a psychological story. That's the problem. They were just like, Final Destination, let's kill people by decapitating them, but like
kill people via trains.
Well, like the most violent deaths in Death Note was like one guy got run over by a truck in the first episode, and everyone else was either like shot or had a heart attack. Like it wasn't that violent. Well, actually, someone got trapped in a burning building, but that was pretty funny.
Okay, but the other thing is too, like, because again, we're building Death Note from something already made, and we've kind of already established Light wasn't exactly the brightest bulb in the shack. At the end, out of left frickin' field, does he pull a Light move? Now, please allow me to explain. This is going to be long-winded, but try and follow along. So I'll try to keep it slow too. So what happens is, apparently Mia's thinking Light is losing his drive to really, change the world and do all that. So she gives him a proposition. I have written your name in the Death Note. You're going to die tonight, of course, prom night, because America. But you're going to die tonight at midnight because your heart's going to stop unless you give me the Death Note, and then I can burn the page, which will then make sure you don't die.
Yo, wait, that was a stupid rule that you could only burn one page of the book.
Was that in the anime?
No, that was completely original, which was stupid.
So A, already on that point. But B...
So I think you could just cross people's names out, right? In the anime? I don't
remember. Honestly, I don't recall any way of taking it back.
Because they never had to.
Over it. Exactly. There was no point in the anime. They wanted to do it for the live-action adaptation. Now, if I may continue. So what happens is, of course, Light is, panicky. That, oh no, I'm going to die. I have to figure out something. And you see him rummaging around trying to do stuff. And it's like, okay, he's probably just panicked. Long story short, they get to like a Ferris wheel. It crashes. Midnight strikes. Everything's going wrong. Mia and Light were fighting over the book. It gets lost. Everything happens. Blah, blah, blah. Mia ends up dead. She hits the rocks that's on the beach that the Ferris wheel is near. Light somehow makes it into the water. He's okay. He's in a coma for 2 days. L is kicked out because he was attacking Light with actual no proof that he is Kira. No physical proof, except, Light frickin' told him. But... And then, Light gets the Death Note back from some weird looking dude who just gives it to him. Light wakes up from his 2-day coma. He hides the Death Note, and his dad comes in, somehow puts 2 and 2 together.
He's kind of like the chief of police, just like in the anime.
But not good enough.
Yeah.
Comes in and by some miracle puts 2 and quadratic formula together to make
6.
But to make the connection that Light is Kira. There is literally nothing up to that point that actually tells him yeah, my son was the god death thing. It's not fun. And then Light goes into this whole 2-3 minute tangent on how he did survive and everything. Up to the point is when we saw him rummaging around for everything, he was writing names in the Death Note for his plan. He wrote that Mia will die by falling by whatever death after grabbing the Death Note. As she is dying, she will rip out a page carrying Light's name, which will then fall into a fire, thereby saving Light. Light will then be found by a doctor who had been accused of sexual harassment against unconscious patients, who will use his medical knowledge to keep him in a medically induced coma for 2 days, into which then he will commit suicide. Some other guy, I can't remember his name, who was accused of, who was
some criminal.
A criminal who was accused and
I think
tried
he did something with children.
Child molester, I think is what it was. All horrible people. Let's leave it at that. But it's okay, he will take the Death Note, he will write the names that appear on the news every night for the next 2 days. At the end of the 2 days, he will bring the Death Note to Light in the medically induced coma, and then kill himself by suicide. Light will then wake up, have the Death Note, and be able to resume his activities. Everything planned. This is a light Yagami plan. This is a light Yagami plan from Death Note. Down to crossing T's, dotting I's. He had planned everything. And this is the only, and I mean only, time that it actually makes sense. But because Light has shown no ability up to that point to do this, it comes so far out of left field that I was just watching this like, okay, yeah, you finally acted like Light, but how did this happen?
Yeah.
Like,
he took a smart pill.
it's basically like, I feel the directors kind of looked in and it's like, yeah, people are not going to like this if we do it, but we can't reshoot. So you know what? Let's just add in this last little part as a tribute to him. And it's just, the whole thing just does not make sense. You can't make Light act like Light, like he should, while not having him do that for the last hour and 25 minutes. Yes, it's an hour and a half long. Yes, I double checked. I just don't know how.
Something that so you're probably thinking the end's pretty bad right now.
It was really like sequel baity, which was really
something
annoying.
but like something that I will say that like I feel like because like honestly I understand your problem, but like considering how bad the movie has already been, I kind of expected it. The thing that absolutely got me up a wall about the ending was that it wasn't an ending.
It literally like ends like mid-sentence and then credits. I'm like, oh, okay, after credit scene. And then there wasn't one. And it's just like, what just happened?
Yikes.
And like, so like, and to elaborate, like even further, like it literally ends with L thinking about / potentially maybe putting Light's name into a page of the Death Note that got separated, yada yada yada. But basically, it never gives you any closure / any satisfying death where it's just like blood guts everywhere.
There's no ending.
Yeah, it just
we don't know what happens.
Yep.
We don't know what the dad does. If he like confronts Light, thinking like, okay,
you're grounded.
Yeah, American.
Classic dad.
But by that to the point of like, does he turn his son in? Does he just keep quiet about it? Does Light decide to kill his father now that he knows too much? That now he's a liability. What's going to happen now with the whole Kira thing? Is it going to stop? Period. Like, it just left it too open that it's probably of course, opening up for a sequel. But just considering how bad it was, trying to do a sequel would just make it hit rock bottom and keep digging.
Ryuk's just chilling there.
Honestly, I think that the sequel bait wasn't a problem. The problem is like, and this is kind of going back to like my original point of how would have the movie been better if it just didn't follow Death Note? Because like
that's
because I felt like literally all they could have had the sequel baity thing, but just had L kill Light and then L have Ryuk, and people's minds would have been blown. Like the amount of reactions that would have like come out of that would have been ridiculous, and I could almost guarantee you that there would be a sequel, because I feel like everyone would be like, well, this movie was terrible, but can it continue? Like, it's ridiculousness. And that's what like my problem with it is. Like, you kind of talked about how it just blended Death Note together and just threw it. I feel like they should have just been like it should have just been called the Timmy Turner story, and then based on Death Note, and just completely got rid of the script and just did different stuff with it. Because I actually, to be honest, was rather entertained by the Death Note movie until the end, where I was like, at least it was a crappy Final Destination movie. Now it's just garbage. Like, there's no redeeming quality. So like that, I think, was the big hit. But that is a question. Like, at the end of the day, were you guys entertained by Death Note?
Yes, but like I also hated myself after. Like, I watched it and I'm like, this is cool because Death Note is inherently a cool story, but it was just very badly written.
I completely agree. Like, I just feel that, like, if I may, there are, of course, some scenes that stick out that, like, yeah, they were slightly enjoyable, but in, like, a heap of garbage, you find, like, the nice, shiny plastic kind. Like, if I'm allowed to. So, like, of course, Light gets the Death Note. He kind of meets Ryu beforehand. He scares him, blah, blah, blah. But he's at home and he's reading everything. And, of course, in the note it says, don't trust Ryu, which to Light calls Ryuk. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Just wait, just wait, just wait. Like Ryuk. And then you just hear from him, actually, and it turns and you see Ryuk just sitting on his bed. It's pronounced Ryuk. And just see, like, okay, Ryuk. Okay, I can do that. So, that was a nice, funny part. I actually admittedly laughed at that. And one of the other kind of funny parts was Light was, of course, seen doing someone else's homework, so you kind of know that like he's that nerd character that gets paid to do people's homework.
Well,
Bunch-
like, OG Light wouldn't do that. He'd just be like, screw you, I don't like people, I'm not helping
My
anyone.
time is more important than yours.
Yeah.
So already, like, I just knew this was not going to be a good representation of the character. But what happens is that someone's getting attacked. I can't remember the exact person whom it is, but they were getting attacked. Light tries to stand up to them, like try to act tough, try to be, logical, like, hey, you're like 18 now, you've been held back. If you attack me, you're attacking a minor, blah, blah, blah. And of course, he gets the crap punched out of him because
Yeah.
America.
Merku.
But of course, then he gets knocked unconscious. It magically starts raining like a few minutes prior. So of course,
Anime rain.
exactly, anime rain. And I guess a teacher comes up, notices that his bag is somehow magically split open, revealing dampened, wet homeworks for other people. And then he's in who I'm guessing is the principal's office. It doesn't really say exactly. But it's saying like, we found in your backpack like 15 copies of homeworks with 15 different names, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, and you're not going to do anything about, the guy that just punched me and left me alone? And it's like, nah.
That sounds American.
Exactly. I was going to say, that's the perfect representation of the American school system. So,
Yeah.
kudos, Death Note. You got like one thing right. So, you know what? Here's a clap. There, you got one thing right. Congratulations.
Yeah. I mean, oh boy, I'm just gonna like I guess reiterate a point. I don't know remember which one you said it, but if you're gonna make a movie with a smart main protagonist, make him do smart actions. So you're gonna have a movie with a dumb protagonist, make him do dumb actions, and have maybe some leading character, or even like have his endearing dumb qualities, have him win a day, wholly win a day, or someone win a day in the end. Don't have a dumb person suddenly like something like Super Saiyan genius to it up at the last second for some reason, and don't have a smart person do a dumb thing at the very end for whatever reason. You just have to, for any aspiring movie and fiction creators listening right now, you gotta keep the character consistent, unless they're schizophrenic, in which case.
Well, that's a whole nother issue, and I don't know how to write, so I can't give any qualities on that. But, long story short, at least from my end, this movie is not really worth it, especially if you do like the show. If you really do want to watch it just to see how bad it is, because either A, you love horrible, trashy movies, or B, you want to torment yourself for whatever reason, go nuts. Maybe you can find the humor in it because of how bad it is. I ain't gonna judge you. Again, my friends and I watched it because we had nothing to do on a Friday night.
That being said, and this is just personal anecdotes and first-hand experiences, which having taken this stats class should beat me. But I've seen a lot of friends who have never watched Death Note before, and myself included, just go from not caring about it at all to, yeah, actually, I just started the first episode anyways, and it's pretty good. Like, at the very least, it's getting people interested, which I can say for certain, the Dragon Ball Z movie of way back when, the live-action high school one, what if Dragon Ball Z, but America, did not get anyone interested in Dragon Ball Z. Now, of course, everyone watched it by then, but the few people that did not proceed to watch it afterwards because it was just bad. At least there was some resemblance to the original anime. I just felt like it should have gone with it wanting to be smart light all the way.
So my last question is, so we've established that this movie is just garbage. You can enjoy maybe because personally I didn't enjoy like the first bit until the end, but I feel like that brings the final question of can Americans make a good anime / live action adaptation? Because for instance like Neo Yokio, which I just gotta bring up real quick.
I knew you were gonna do it.
I had to do it.
meme.
I had to do it
so
at the
bad.
end. But it's not live action, but it is a cartoon
Jaden Smith, the meme.
has Jaden Smith as the main voice actor. Is just atrociously bad.
It's written by the guy from Vampire Weekend, so that's how you know it's edgy.
Just a hint. One line is literally, "I'm sorry for being late to this game, but as you all have known, I was depressed. However, that is all in the past now."
It's just so edgy and stupid.
It's so far into the future that they've cured depression. They just cured it.
But why? So that being said, I will say, unlike the Death Note movie, it is entertaining.
It's
to
just
give it credit.
stupid but funny, just because of how bad it is.
But do you think and granted that's a tangent, but do you think we can actually get an adaptation right? Because I feel feel like there is possibilities for it, but for instance, there does seem to be this tendency where we try to fit things that don't fit into the movie to fit the American narrative, in American movies. Because I feel like even if you, for instance, really, we won't probably spoil and talk too much about it, but Your Name was a very big hit in America. Do you think that could get a good live action adaptation in the United States?
I feel like it's too. Well, it's too soon to make a live action in the U.S. And I think it's also not necessary. You know what I mean? I feel like it doesn't need to be live action in the first place.
And is anything
And
necessary?
I also feel like since it's granted Ghost in the Shell is also a movie, but I feel like it'd be weird to make a live action adaptation movie of a recently animated movie.
And that actually brings up the interesting point of, do you think live action adaptations of anime is just a bad idea in general?
No, because I don't know, it depends. I think Your Name would fail because one of the biggest drawing points was how beautiful it looked, and you're not going to get that beauty in live action. Whereas Ghost in the Shell, if done right, can look beautiful in live action and be fun because it's an action movie. As long as you're doing the action part right, it could be cool. Whereas Dragon Ball sucked because it just was written horribly and looked bad. But you can get a good live action anime movie.
So to reiterate Craig's point, I think you just said that Your Name was beautiful while real life is not.
Okay, but no. Your Name was beautiful in a way that you can't. You know what I mean? Okay, you can't. Yeah,
it was. I know what you mean. But,
I feel it could do well. If you wanted to take an anime and make it into a live action adaptation, I feel it could. But the issue is there's been nothing that has really proven that so far. Because Death Note has had a live action adaptation before the American released one. Japan had their own live action adaptation. They had it for Attack on Titan. They had it for Full Metal Alchemist. And these are shows that are well loved and well known within that community. And all of the live action ones just flopped. There's just something.
I think Gintama was supposed to be good.
Yeah, well, Gintama's crazy. So that makes a little more sense that real life is nuts. But the problem with that is just, there is a lot of information to try to cram within even an hour and a half. If you really think about it, an anime in its entirety can be hours upon hours. So to try to cram all that within an hour and a half is just difficult and almost impossible in and of itself. And B, what works well with anime is that you can do the weird, over the top, the crazy stuff because it's not supposed to be real. There's kind of that separation between. But once you hit live action and you try to bring that kind of otherworldness into it and try to replicate it, things just don't transfer over well. Like if I can just point to the Attack on Titan live action one, like mind you, this was a production done by a Japanese studio. So of course they would care about this project, and even still, it wasn't good. The characters were just bland and unfeeling. The Titans were unnerving, but not unnerving because they were the Titans. It was unnerving because of how they looked. Like it just looked like uncomfortable CGI, if that's the best way to explain it. It just you could tell you were looking at something weird. Like you couldn't get
Uncanny Valley.
You couldn't get immersed in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's the difference anime versus live action can do. If you know you're watching a live action movie, show, anything, you know it's just hard to get into it because you're already like seeing it without it. You know that it's not really something you can get all that invested to. Whereas anime, you can almost become a part of that world. You start getting everything. It has the ability to create its own set of rules, its own way of life, and it's just hard to translate that into like live action adaptations.
A lot of people have actually made that point with the Nolan versus Batman movies, like especially the one with Bane, because that was his last.
Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, Dark Knight Rises.
That one was
And
weird.
I held that the opinion of myself that yeah, no, it's a great movie, and then someone made a really good point of how like Bane's supposed to be unrealistically stupid strong. He's just supposed to be an unrealistic character in general, and just having him being a pretty buff guy, but that's essentially it. He doesn't have venom steroid juice. He's just a strong guy. It just is hard to something feels lost in the transformation from animation to realism, and I imagine the same way the other way around.
I actually kind of agree with you in a lot of ways, but one thing that like I just kind of thought of while you guys were talking about, this will be like probably the last point, is do you think a slice of life would work better? Because I feel like you could make a pretty good like live adaptation of a slice of life where it actually like for instance one example would be a silent voice, because personally we could get into like the specifics of the movie, but I actually thought the movie didn't do it justice. I like if there was like a live action series of a silent voice, like that was actually a series, like I would probably be super hyped for it. Granted, probably like an anime might be better, but what are your guys' thought on that?
I just feel like it's definitely much easier to do a slice of life live action just because I feel like it's very easy and it's much easier in terms of filming and cinematography and probably very easy to write, but like what's the point? Because a lot of the things that make slice of life anime so successful is their comedic timing, and a big part of that is animation. A lot of the things that happen are funny looking, and it's mainly because of visual gags and things like that, and absurdity of anime voice acting and overacting that just wouldn't be as funny in live action, and it'd just be kind of boring and flat and one note and just unnecessary.
I mean, I do feel it could work, but then again, it feels like, even as Greg was saying, it would just get too like watered down in a way. It would almost feel like soap opera-y or ABC Family Television special like. It just feels like again, it's hard to kind of bring over from anime into a live action because again, one of the funny things about anime is the weird facial expressions, the weird things they can do that,
It's
unfortunately
all visual gags.
because unfortunately the human body cannot do that.
I mean,
We can't stretch our limbs. What?
If only.
I feel like that you are kind of right, but I also feel like just a live action Nichijou movie would be absolutely hilarious.
It would,
but like
But
I know
it would
that
be weird.
But
it would be extremely weird, and but I feel like that's the thing you would have to accept is that for you to make like I feel like no matter what you do, like it's always like because I feel like in some ways to at least the American like anime is just kind of weird just in general like. like the majority of Japan's population
Yeah.
doesn't really watch a ton of anime. So like I feel like in general being into anime is kind of weird. But regardless, that's a whole different can of worms that like we're not gonna go into. But I will say that yes, it would be weird, but I feel like I mean, isn't Nichijou a weird show?
Yeah.
But it's a love show, you know what I mean? So I feel like you could make a really kind of funny movie with just like a principal, because I want to see a principal wrestling a deer in real life now.
Yeah, I want to see it. I want to see a high school girl go Super Saiyan. That being said, I feel like it could definitely work as a real movie if they acknowledge that and kind of integrate the weirdness into the real life, into the live action movie. Like all right, this is a bit of a stretch, but let's take what's the comedy group, the British comedy group that everyone loves?
Monty Python.
Monty
Yeah.
Python, yeah. It's like the which one had the one with like the clapping
Monty
the coconuts?
Python and the Holy Grail.
Monty clap, yeah, the
most
Holy
famous
Grail,
one.
yeah, clapping the coconuts. The characters are clapping the coconuts in front of the camera as they like, I'm totally using a horse, guys. That came about because they had like a stupid low budget, but it also worked because it was so ridiculous already that it just made it that much more ridiculous. And because you're having a good time, you're having even more good time because of that. I feel like if they have like something weird happen in real life, as like, can't remember which girl it happens to, but she essentially goes Super Saiyan and catches. Well, they're both like they both become the Flash and are chasing each other around the school. I feel like if you have something weird in the high school as like I guess a sign of love and passion by the people making the movie, then it could turn out really well. Otherwise, it could turn out a bit like, let's say, the J. Cole effect. How the movie, like J. Cole's music itself isn't bad, but because of the fan base and J. Cole himself, you just can't help but think, wow, this is so pretentious and
I like J.
annoying.
Cole.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I like
again,
GOMD. I
but
like
again,
Neighbors.
like the fan base is such a like J. Cole requires a certain amount of a level of intelligence that it's just like
Nah, that's
you
Rick and
can't-
Morty. The newest,
oh my god,
the
no.
intellectual
you're
show.
so right, dude.
We're
But you
not
just
getting
can't have
into
it. You can't have a good time with that. Like you got to get the ball rolling, and then you go balls crazy.
Yeah, because like I definitely like to like kind of like agree with you. But that being said, I feel like it could get real bad, real quick.
Oh, obviously.
Like, but before we end, I guess you guys want to go around and like concluding remarks? I guess we'll say I'll start with Craig.
Yeah, so J. Cole went double platinum with 0 features.
The best live action adaptation of an anime.
J. Cole, 2014 Forest Hills Drive, best movie.
Is Jaden Smith real or is he just an anime?
What are my concluding thoughts? Death Note, the live action movie, was very meh. The anime is one of the greatest anime ever made. I cannot wait to read the manga, which I'm finally going to do soon. My Hero Academia is good, but needs to stop being overhyped. Kaiji is really cool. You should all watch that. Go check out Funimation because they're dubbing a bunch of stuff this fall, like an absurd amount of things, and they're all going to be really cool. So go anime.
Basically what he said. Maybe.
Yeah, especially the Hero Academia part.
Okay, well, excuse you. This is my time.
Yeah.
But maybe it doesn't deserve all the hype. I can admit that, but I think it does still deserve a fair amount of it. It's been doing really cool things for really a series that's only been going on 3 years. Which, again, if you think of like the big juggernauts as they were One Piece, Bleach, and Naruto, that's still impressive.
Yeah.
So, I'd say read it, watch it. You're gonna enjoy it. Do not watch the Death Note live action movie.
No, you should watch it, of course.
Unless you really want to just laugh at the sheer craziness.
If you've already seen Death Note in an anime or manga, don't watch it. But if you haven't seen either, then maybe you'll get interested.
Fair enough.
One thing I will say, concluding, is that first off, I didn't say this through the podcast, but My Love Story might be
fucking god!
might be the best anime that there ever was.
You
And
cannot
I just-
stop writing that!
And I will just put that out there real quick. But besides that, I will say to talk about Death Note. I would actually say if you're into Final Destination stuff, it is pretty entertaining. I will say that. but it is pretty terrible, and the endings
Atrocious.
yeah, like I don't have like I'm not sure if there's a word in the like language of the English language or any language that can describe it. Got one?
Jumped the shark.
Jump the shark.
Edge.
Sonic the Hedgehog. The thing I really want to say about My Hero Academia is that while the pacing is my hero, is that it's the best anime ever. One
My Hero Macadamia.
Mac and Cheese
Not
Academia.
theme spinoff.
Yeah. Is that although the pacing is really it's a little bit frustrating right now. I'm pretty confident in that when it eventually comes to a conclusion, I'll be able to look back at the anime and think, wow, it sure is great that half of it didn't end up being spoilers because it was like some people complain about right now, rather compacted. Like even though there was 700 episodes of Naruto, how many episodes do we really care about? Like I'm pretty hopeful for it and the manga as a whole. Death Note, read the manga or watch the anime.
So I think that is the conclusion of our podcast. Thank you to everyone who is listening. We will be having these out monthly, so expect hopefully by the end of October to have another podcast. And I guess usually we say like and subscribe. You
Yeah,
can
we
do
don't
that.
we don't know what this is going on. So
Yeah.
if it's on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. If it's on Soundwave, do whatever you do on Soundwave. If it's on MySpace, follow my charts. Is that what you do?
MySpace is still a thing.
I think so.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
If it's on Twitter, like it, favorite it. I don't know.
What's the Instagram thing?
Like
Is it just like it?
If this is on Snapchat for whatever reason, screenshot it.
If it's on the internet, find it.
Yeah, I think.
And something I will say is that it will probably be on our website, which
Yes.
is WordPress dot animation.
I don't
Basically,
know.
what you can do is you can just
Binghamton.
in Google type in WordPress animation. That's how I got it before I bookmarked
gonna find
the whatever. Craig's gonna confirm this. So while he's doing that, I'm just gonna say My Love Story is a great anime.
Okay, we get it. You love My Love Story. It's the thing you're willing to sell your soul over.
I'm
We
sorry.
get
Is
it.
it
I
Word-
can't look at a Barbie-looking girl for the entire episode.
Is it WordPress Binghamton animation? Yes.
Yeah.
No, maybe. Yeah,
we
you're
done
fine.
it. We done it.
BUanimationclub.wordpress.com. There you go. We are Binghamton's only animation club.
All right, so for those of you again who do want to find this, it is buanimationclub.wordpress.com.
Yes. All right.
All right.
Thanks
Well,
for listening.
We
gang.
will see you next time. This is the Binghamton University Animation Club signing off.
Goodbye.